Have you ever wondered what happens when two worlds collide? Not just any worlds, but the world of unimaginable wealth and the world of everyday life. This is the story of Leo, the heir to a multi-billion-dollar empire, and Clara, a spirited librarian who found more joy in books than in bank accounts. Their story didn't start at a glamorous gala or a high-stakes auction. It began in a small, cozy coffee shop tucked away on a quiet street. Leo, tired of his gilded cage, had slipped away from his bodyguards for a rare moment of anonymity. He was just a guy in a simple t-shirt trying to read a book in peace. That's when Clara, on her lunch break, accidentally spilled her latte all over his very expensive first edition classic. Mortified, she offered to pay for it, not knowing it was worth more than her car. Leo just laughed. It was the most genuine, unexpected thing that had happened to him in years. He was charmed, not by her apology, but by the passionate way she started talking about the book itself, completely forgetting who he was or what she'd just done. For the first time, someone saw him, not his last name. They talked for hours, and by the time the coffee shop closed, they both knew something special had just begun. Their dates weren't about private jets or Michelin star restaurants. They were about picnics in the park, late-night walks, and exploring dusty old bookstores. Leo showed Clara a world of art and culture she'd only read about, and she showed him the simple joys he'd been starved of his entire life, like cooking a meal together, getting lost in a new neighborhood, and just being normal. They fell in love deeply and truly, in a world they built just for the two of them. But you know, a story like this can't stay secret forever. The bubble had to burst, and it did, with the force of a hurricane, when Leo's father, a formidable titan of industry, found out. To him, Clara wasn't a person. She was a liability, a distraction, a gold digger who didn't fit into his grand design for the family dynasty. He summoned Leo to his sterile, sky-high office, the city lights twinkling below like a conquered kingdom. The ultimatum was cruel and simple. End it with the girl, or you will be cut off. No inheritance, no company, no name. You will have nothing. He expected Leo to fold, just like he always had. He saw his son as just another asset to be managed, but he miscalculated. He did understand that Clara had given Leo something money could never buy: the courage to be his own man. Leo looked his father in the eye, the man he had feared his entire life, and for the first time, he didn't see a giant. He just saw a lonely man in a lonely tower. He calmly placed his platinum credit card and the keys to his luxury car on the polished desk. "I choose her," he said, his voice steady. "And for the record, with her, I have everything." He walked out of that office, leaving behind a world of wealth, but walking toward a future of true richness. So what happened next? Well, it wasn't easy. Leo had to learn how to live on a budget, how to find a job, how to build a life from scratch. And Clara, she was right there by his side, not as a girl who was saved by a prince, but as a partner who was building a new kingdom with the man she loved. Their story isn't a fairy tale where the prince gives up his crown. It's a real story about choosing love over legacy and happiness over wealth. It's about discovering that the greatest fortune in the world isn't what's in your bank account, but who you have standing beside you. What do you think? Did Leo make the right choice? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. See you next time. Have you ever had a moment so embarrassing, so utterly humiliating, that you just wanted the ground to swallow you whole? For Ariba, that moment wasn't just a fleeting nightmare. It was a public spectacle that threatened to define her forever. It happened at her university's annual startup competition. She was on stage, heart-pounding, presenting the app she'd poured her soul into for months. But instead of applause, she was met with cold, harsh laughter. A respected judge, a titan of the tech industry, publicly dismantled her idea, calling it naive and a waste of everyone's time. The audience snickered. Her friends looked away. Ariba's world crumbled right there, under the glare of the stage lights. The walk of shame off that stage felt like an eternity. That night, she couldn't sleep. The laughter echoed in her ears, each snicker a fresh stab of doubt. Was he right? Was she just a naive dreamer? Tears streamed down her face as she scrolled through her code, the lines blurring together. It would have been so easy to give up, to delete the project, to switch her major and forget this whole painful episode ever happened. The world had told her she wasn't good enough, and for a terrifying moment, she believed it. She was at a crossroads. Let this failure crush her, or let it ignite something within her. As the sun began to rise, a different feeling started to bubble up through the despair, anger. A quiet, defiant anger. How dare he? How dare they laugh? She decided right then and there that she wouldn't be a tragic story. She would be a success story. That humiliation became her fuel. Ariba went back to the drawing board, not to scrap her idea, but to fortify it. She spent every waking hour refining her app, conducting market research, and interviewing potential users. She reached out to professors, mentors, and even small business owners, anyone who would listen. She faced rejection after rejection. Doors were slammed in her face. Emails went unanswered. But every no just reminded her of the laughter in that auditorium, and it pushed her to work even harder. She wasn't just building an app anymore. She was building her comeback. She taught herself advanced coding languages, studied business strategy late into the night, and practiced her pitch in front of a mirror until her voice was hoarse. Slowly, things started to change. A small local incubator saw the potential the judge had missed. They gave her a tiny grant and a shared workspace. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. It was a vote of confidence. Surrounded by other passionate founders, Ariba thrived. She learned, she collaborated, she iterated. Her app, once the subject of ridicule, began to take shape into something powerful and intuitive. A small-scale beta launch earned rave reviews from its first users. Word of mouth started to spread. People were talking about this new app that was genuinely solving a problem. The quiet buzz grew into a noticeable hum in the tech community. Then came the moment of sweet, sweet vindication. A year later, a major tech conference was held in her city, and who was the keynote speaker? The very same judge who had publicly humiliated her. By this time, Ariba's app had secured significant seed funding and was being hailed as one of the most promising new startups of the year. She wasn't a student with a shaky idea anymore. She was a CEO. After his speech, during the Q&A, Ariba stepped up to the microphone. The room went quiet as she introduced herself and her company. A flicker of recognition, then shock, crossed the judge's face. She didn't remind him of his harsh words. She didn't need to. She simply asked a sharp, insightful question about the future of the industry. A question that showcased her expertise and vision. In that moment, the power dynamic had completely shifted. He was on stage and she was in control. Her success was the ultimate reply. Ariba's story is a powerful reminder that our lowest moments don't have to define us. They can be the very foundation upon which we build our greatest triumphs. Thank you so much for watching. If Ariba's journey inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of resilience and success. See you in the next one. Ariba's small digital platform, once a passion project, was now a force to be reckoned with. It had blossomed into a tech solution so effective, so streamlined, that it was directly challenging the industry giant run by Arman Rahman. Arman, a name synonymous with success, had initially dismissed her venture as insignificant. Now, he was the one who had requested a meeting. The day arrived and Ariba walked into the boardroom not as a hopeful startup founder, but as an equal. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Arman, accustomed to being the one holding all the cards, found himself facing a woman who was not intimidated by his reputation or his wealth. She was composed, her arguments sharp, and her data undeniable. She laid out her vision for the future, not just for her company, but for the industry. Her presentation was a masterclass in strategy and innovation. She spoke of user-centric design, of agile development, of a future he hadn't even begun to consider. Armand listened, his initial intention to absorb her company into his own quickly dissolving. This wasn't a competitor to be crushed. This was a partner to be courted. The power dynamic in the room had subtly but completely shifted. He was no longer the titan assessing a minor player. He was witnessing the rise of a new leader, one whose brilliance was self-evident. Araba wasn't just talking about a business. She was demonstrating a superior understanding of the digital world. Her professionalism was impeccable, her confidence rooted in genuine competence. As she concluded, she didn't ask for his approval. She presented a partnership proposal, a collaboration of equals. She detailed how their combined strengths could revolutionize the market, creating something far greater than either could achieve alone. Armand was struck by her foresight. The initial annoyance he felt at her success had transformed into a deep, undeniable admiration. He saw in her the same fire that had once driven him, but with a fresh perspective that he had lost along the way. Her success wasn't a threat to his. It was an opportunity. He looked at the proposal, then at Araba, who met his gaze with a steady, knowing calm. The terms were fair, aggressive, and brilliant. He extended his hand across the polished mahogany table. "Araba," he said, his voice holding a new tone of respect. "You have yourself a partner." A genuine smile broke across Araba's face as they shook on it. The deal was done. The future of their industry had just been redrawn in that room. For Araba, it was the culmination of years of hard work and unwavering belief. For Armand, it was a profound lesson. Later that evening, as he stood looking out at the city lights from his penthouse office, he reflected on the encounter. He had built an empire on the idea of being the best, of being unrivaled. Araba had shown him that true success isn't about solitary dominance. It's about recognizing strength in others and having the wisdom to join forces. His pride hadn't been wounded. It had been redefined. He felt a surge of excitement he hadn't experienced in years, the thrill of a new beginning. Thanks for watching our story unfold. What do you think is the most important quality for a successful entrepreneur? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that inspire. See you in the next one. 2 months later, the partnership between Raman Global Holdings and Araba's company was officially announced. The business media hailed it as a strategic masterstroke, and investors praised the collaboration as a perfect blend of experience and innovation. On the surface, it looked like a simple corporate alliance. But for Armand Raman, it meant something much deeper. For weeks after the agreement, Armand found himself thinking about the past more often than usual. Late at night, when the noise of meetings and phone calls finally stopped, he would remember that dinner. The laughter, the word foolish. He had built his empire by fighting against people who underestimated him. Yet, without realizing it, he had done the same thing to someone else. One evening, while sitting alone in his study, surrounded by awards and framed magazine covers, he stared at an old photograph from his early business days. In the picture, he was a young man standing in front of a small rented shop, wearing simple clothes, full of dreams. Back then, many wealthy businessmen had laughed at him too. They had said he lacked connections, polish, and experience. He suddenly understood the painful similarity. The next day, Armand did something unexpected. He asked Zion to arrange a private dinner, not at the mansion, not with guests, not with business partners, just the three of them. When Araba arrived, the atmosphere felt completely different from the first time. There were no chandeliers shining for display, no crowded hall, no watching eyes. It's just a quiet dining room and a simple table setting. Armand stood up as she entered. This small gesture alone surprised both her and Zion. They sat down, and for a few moments, no one spoke. Finally, Armand broke the silence. His voice was steady, but softer than usual. He admitted that the night he had insulted her, he had spoken from arrogance, not wisdom. He said he had allowed his fear of losing control over his family's legacy to cloud his judgment. Ariba listened quietly, just as she had done months ago. But this time, there was no humiliation in the air, only honesty. Armand continued, saying that watching her build a company from the ground up had reminded him of his own journey. He confessed that he had mistaken simplicity for weakness and humility for foolishness. He acknowledged that true intelligence is proven through actions, not background. Then he did something no one expected. He apologized. Not as a billionaire protecting his image, but as a father who realized he had been wrong. The room felt lighter after those words. Ariba did not respond with pride or coldness. She said she had never wanted revenge. She only wanted respect and the opportunity to stand on her own merit. She explained that the humiliation had hurt her deeply, but it had also pushed her to work harder and clearer. Zion watched both of them carefully, feeling relief wash over him. For months, he had carried guilt, torn between loyalty to his father and love for the woman he admired. Now, for the first time, he felt those two worlds finally meeting. As dinner continued, the conversation shifted from past mistakes to future possibilities. They discussed expansion plans, community projects, and ideas for supporting young entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds. Armand even suggested creating a mentorship program funded by his foundation, with Ariba leading the initiative. It was not just a business reconciliation. It was the beginning of mutual respect. Over the following months, their partnership grew stronger. The mentorship program launched successfully, helping dozens of young innovators receive funding and guidance. Media outlets began highlighting not just the corporate alliance, but also the story of growth and understanding behind it. But the most important transformation was personal. Armand no longer measured worth only by wealth or family name. He began listening more, judging less. He understood that legacy is not protected by control, but strengthened by inclusion. Ariba, on the other hand, remained grounded. She continued leading her company with discipline and vision, never allowing success to turn into arrogance. She knew how painful underestimation felt, and she made sure no one in her team experienced the same. What had started as public humiliation had turned into a powerful lesson for everyone involved. In the end, it was not revenge that changed the story. It was resilience, maturity, and the courage to admit mistakes. And Armand Rahman finally realized that the girl he once called foolish was, in truth, one of the wisest people he had ever met. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.